Welcome to Brownsville at Large, the podcast where we highlight the people, projects, and possibilities shaping the future of our city. I'm your host, Commissioner Tino, and in this episode, we're joined by Doroteo Garcia Jr., Assistant City Manager for the City of Brownsville and former Director of Engineering and Public Works. With decades of experience guiding critical infrastructure, Doro's here to walk us through Brownsville's capital improvement program, a plan that's transforming streets, drainage, parks, emergency services, and more. We'll also dig into how our streets are prioritized, our city's drainage plans and updates. This isn't just about infrastructure, it's about building a better Brownsville for you. Doro, welcome to the show.
Tino, thank you for having me on the show. First of all, I've been with the city of Brownsville 23 years. I started as a project manager. They walked into the city manager's office one day and was delivering actually some papers. And the city engineer at the time was Ernesto Hinojosa. And he knew me because I knew his son from school. And he's like, hey, I just graduated from UTRGV. It was actually UTB-TSC at the time. And he's like, we're looking for a project manager. He's like, I know you just graduated. Would you be interested? That led to a quick interview. 2 weeks after that, I started working with the city of Brownsville, overseeing the construction of Dean Porter Park, which was my first project. I call my baby now. I never thought I'd get to see it 25 years later, still being used by so many children in our community. It's been an interesting journey. Been with the city, like I said, roughly about 20 years, mainly at the engineering department. The last 3 years, I've been with the Director of Engineering and Public Works, helped at the airport a little bit, helped at the Planning and Permitting department a little bit, and been a year and 3 months now as Assistant City Manager.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I mean, look, every city, every company, every organization needs somebody who has longevity. They say that in those kind of companies or entities, I think for the city of Brownsville, Doro is the person who knows where all the skeletons in the closet are, right? I think being there for 2 decades gives you kind of that rank.
I've enjoyed the journey and definitely has its perks. I mean, especially on the construction side, I always tell, the average life of a street is about 20 years. I never thought I'd be rebuilding some of the streets I started working on when I first started here. But it's been an interesting journey and a unique opportunity, right? You get to share with a lot of our employees. They run into some issues. You give them some pointers based on your experience or times or things that you did in some of the projects that they're now working on or improving. So it's really unique.
Well, we're so happy that you have stuck with the city. We hope that you continue being here at the city for a real long time, Doro. I want to talk about, I want to get into streets, but one of the biggest things that we've done as a commission and just kind of to prepare you for the show, this is an informational podcast. So a lot of stuff that we want to do is give information to the viewers, to the people who are here that sometimes may not know exactly the details, the intricacies of what goes on. When I had the mayor here on in our first show, we talked about the capital improvement plan. That's $371.9 million over the next 5 years. I know that $95.1 million is allocated towards projects this upcoming year. So when people hear those grand numbers, right, 300 million, 95 million, what's happening? What's going to really take place? How does it affect me? Why is that so important? And so for me, I have a quick question so that I kind of get you going and let's start with big picture. What is a capital improvement program and why should the community care?
I think one of the good things about a capital improvement program, it really creates transparency, first of all. Why? Because, yes, we talk these big numbers. The confidence in our community and how we spend their tax dollars is really important. And this program lays out, not step by step, but really project by project, how much money's being spent, where is it going to be spent on, so there's no surprises. You know what's coming. We have a lot of street projects that are programmed. I know that's one of the main focuses. So it basically lays out what streets are going to be done for the next 5 years. So that's the opportunity. I think for me, the biggest part of this is a transparency that it creates for the public. It gives them a timeline of when more or less projects are going to be complete and more or less how much is going to be spent. The other thing we get criticized sometimes is the amount of money that we spend on our projects, right? Yeah. Sometimes it seems really high, especially on the road work, right? On the streets projects, a lot of the work is underground. You don't see it. So there's a lot of money buried basically in the pipes, the infrastructure, the water lines, sanitary sewer lines, electrical lines, our storm drainage. We experience a lot of flooding, which we'll touch on. So there's a lot of money that's underground that you don't visually see. Then, of course, the road work, right? And it's dealing with all the traffic control. As we talk into some of these projects in detail, you'll see some of the challenges we face. But that's one of the things that I like about the capital improvement program, that it really lays out what we're doing for the next 5 years, gives the general public that, okay, this is where my money's going.
Hmm. So, a question that I'm pretty sure people viewing are going to ask is, where's the funding coming from? And so I just wanted to take a moment to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? I want to take a moment to tell the viewers, our citizens, and everybody watching, um, the CIP comes from a mix of sources: bonds, state and federal grants, local sales and property taxes, and transfers from utilities like PUB. So it's like this mixture formula that Mr. Guard and our city manager Helen, they kind of work and figure this out. But the reality is this the first time that in 23 years that you've seen a capital improvement program?
Of this magnitude, yes. When I first started with the city, we were working off a bond program that was not finished at the time. So, but that bond program was a lot smaller. It was a $35 million bond program for 7 years. We were in the completion of some of the road work that was being finalized, and it lasted for about the first 2 years of my career here with the city. And since then, we had some, but it was not a legitimate program like what we have today that really outlines the entire city, not just a department or a section of the city or a couple of departments. This is the
Hmm.
entire city. And like I said, that's why for me, it's really nice to have this big picture of what's going on in your city, major projects, right? We have a lot of smaller projects that are not part of the CIP, but those we have in our work plan.
Correct.
So even though we may not have a full-blown CIP for it, you have the work plan that illustrates specifically smaller projects that are also taking place and happening in our city.
Mhm. Well, this year, $17.2 million is going to be invested into streets and drainage just this year alone, not part of the 370 million. 10.1 million for new buses, 3.7 million for parks and green space, 3.2 million in downtown revitalization, plus funding for some new fire trucks and ambulances just this year alone. But I think the biggest thing that the viewers always want to know is roads, streets. So let's dive into that, right? Let's talk roads. First, before we get to, everybody wants to know, is my road next, or when is my road going to be repaired? How are road repair priorities determined?
So there's, a lot of the times phone calls, right? We have a hotline where people can report potholes, any issues that they have.
Is that
That
is that
that's
546 help?
546 help.
Okay.
Yes. So that tool is useful for us because it creates the awareness, number one, right? In addition to that, our primary source for determining what roads we complete is what we call a pavement condition index. The city completes a citywide survey of our streets, and this is a van basically with 16
Mhm.
high resolution cameras that detect air damages, any imperfections in our roadway. And they take samples at every 500 feet, and based on that, those samples are rated, and it determines an average score from 1 to 100 for our roads. The last one we completed was in 2020. So they're pretty recent. We try to complete them about every 4 to 6 years, more or less.
Mhm.
On average, is when we try to do it. But right now, we've seen very positive results with the improvements we've done in our mill and overlay program. But going back to your question, the pavement condition index is the primary tool for determining what roads we do. Based on the score that they get, then in addition to that, we try to maximize our resources, right? Obviously, if we have more roads that are damaged in one particular neighborhood, we're going to focus on that neighborhood because it needs it. Uh, we reduce our mobilization costs when we go and work on various streets in one area versus hopping around town, doing one street here, one street there. There's the efficiency, right? In addition to that, we take traffic counts, and the volume of traffic that moves through the road is another item that we consider. Hence, Old Highway 77 is a very heavily used road, and that's why it was at the top of our list. And given the condition that it had, road hadn't been touched in well over 50 years.
I think that a lot of people um, don't know, Dodo, that uh, there's different tiers of fixing the road. There's mill and overlay. Can you talk about those three
Sure.
levels of how we fix roads?
So the levels of maintenance, right? When we have a brand new road, typically within the first through fifth year of the road's life, we're going to be doing crack sealing, which basically the road will develop some cracks, and we'll go in, clean them out, and seal them. And the intent of the road is to try to prevent moisture from seeping into the road and damaging our roadway, basically. Okay. So between year 5 and 10, you start running into the more invasive courses where we call a seal coat, where you'll
Mhm.
go in and basically, a lot of people call it painting the road, but it's oil that's placed on the road to reestablish its condition as new. Um, then you get into the more popular one that you hear a lot, the mill and overlay. Mill and overlay, a road has three layers. Your top layer, your driving layer, the asphalt, the black course that you typically see on the road. A mill and overlay will usually only touch 1 to 2 inches of that course, depending on the number of issues that we have, and we basically remove it and replace it. On those, we get praised highly because we can complete it, anywhere between 3 to 14 days, depending on the length of the road. You complete a Price Road uh, a few months ago, and we completed that roughly in about 14 to 20 days. So, people are happy because it happens really quick. Then you have roadway construction projects like Old Highway 77 that are more invasive. It's a full reconstruction. Full reconstruction means you get into the three layers of the road. You have your asphalt layer, your base layer, and then your subgrade. Your subgrade is basically your platform to create a working strata to be able to place a good solid base layer that supports the traffic that you're going to be going through it. And then the asphalt, of course, creates that nice workhorse. In addition to that, on the full reconstruction projects like Old Highway 77 or International, while we're doing the roadway project, we'll go in and replace any water lines that need to be replaced, any sanitary sewer lines that need to be replaced, storm drainage improvements. We'll coordinate with other utility providers, like our gas company, our electric companies, to make sure that any repairs that are needed are completed while we tear up the road.
Mhm.
Uh, I can tell you my time here, it was very common for the city to fix a road and a utility company would come in and tear it up. The coordination was nowhere near where it is today. I think technology has played a huge role in that communication, but that collaboration with our partners here in the city has been instrumental.
So those are the three, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that recently, and thank you and the team, you guys have been able to now in-house the mill and overlay.
Yes,
I mean, for the
we've been doing an overlay in-house for about 10 years. The efficiencies or the improvements we've had in the last 4 years have been just tremendous. I mean, when I started as director of engineering and public works, our crews they felt like they have the resources to complete the bigger
Mhm.
projects. One of the things that we did at the engineering and public works department, we have roughly a little bit under 200 employees. And I told our paving crew, which consists of about 20 employees, I go, look, we have all these other crews that can assist you in paving. When over the first year that I was there, we started building up their confidence to take on the bigger projects. But it was really on the second and third year where the team, on their own, took the initiative to take on a project like Price Road. We completed Price Road from the expressway to Paredes Line Road. And the interesting part was that the state, with a contractor, began milling and overlaying Paredes Line Road about a month before we started. So they completed this project, in roughly about a month. And our guys were a little bit under pressure. They're like, what if we take longer than, we anticipate?
Mhm.
And it was really interesting to see them collaborate At the city we mentioned, a lot of people are familiar with how siloed the departments can be sometimes, right? And they're the challenges that we face in government, right? And seeing the group just come together to work on that project, we had one crew, our maintenance crew, greens crew, went in and helped clean up the street. Our hotshot crew assisted with sweeping. Then our traffic team helped set up the traffic control. They had never set up traffic control for a project that large, which was a big challenge for them, right? Because it takes up, a lot of department resources. And then our maintenance crew assisted with some of the patching and repairs that needed to be done to the roads so that we could complete the mill and overlay by our paving crew. Roughly, we had about 80, right around 80 employees, 80 to 90 employees work on that whole project. And they exceeded their own timeline. They were expected to complete it in about 20 days. They completed the paving in 8 days. Our striping crew came back and striped the road in about 5 days. So they were really happy with the accomplishment. It was we submitted it for a recognition or an award with the state and was selected as the project of the year with the state. A lot of it had to
Wow.
do with the
Yeah.
collaboration that took place
To
in
make
in
it
bringing
happen.
yes, in bringing this
Oh,
project to
that's
reality.
yeah. I'll tell you what. I drive through it all the time, and I drove through it while it was being done. And that how you close off one half and then you have the other half. It seemed like that thing got done rather quickly. Some that are not getting done rather quickly. Some of the projects happening right now. We have Old Highway 77, um, Wild Rose, the resurfacing. What else do we have happening right now?
So I think the two big projects, right? You hear International, that's a state-driven project. They're on the second half of the roadway. These are long, full reconstruction projects. Like I mentioned,
So so
all
people just
utilities.
so
Go ahead.
people know, right? So when we talk about those streets, when we say state roads, so the city's working with TxDOT. Is TxDOT fully in control of that? Do we have any say so kind of on the timeline of that? How
So
does that work?
the contracts are managed 100% by the state.
Okay.
The city's input is basically the connections of their drainage systems to a lot of our systems
Okay.
and making sure that the improvements that they do don't negatively impact any of the drainage. Or we report to them, hey, look, we have some drainage issues along this area. On International, to my surprise, uh, being with the city so many years, seeing text, I would usually just say, well, this is what we're doing, and that was it. We had very little say so. One of the things now is they really consider our input. They take our input very seriously. That particular project, the storm drainage system, instead of replacing it with what was in place, they upgraded. They almost doubled the size of our storm drain system because of the flooding we experienced on
So
International.
there's people that are upset. It's taking forever. I can't get through there. But what people don't know is you're getting a completely brand new storm drainage system put in. They didn't take the old one. They doubled its capacity. So it's taking a while. I mean, there's growing pains,
Correct.
right? Like in a big city, some people sometimes feel like in San Antonio
Always
they're
construction.
redoing the highway forever since I was a kid. In Austin, there's construction forever, but this one's being done right. Are there any other old Highway 77,
So we have
international? What else is being actually worked on right now?
Old Highway 77 is expected to be complete by October of 2026.
Wow.
That's one of the things
Okay.
that I need to make sure that our viewing audiences, share that with the community. There's a lot of rumors out there that project's going to take 3 or 4 years. October 2026 is our contractual obligation. The contractor's clearly working. We have some pictures
Hmm.
that are available for you all to look at. Um, this project is roughly about a $14 million project in
Hmm.
partnership with Brownsville PUB. The utilities alone, everything that's underground is roughly about $5.2 million. So there's a lot of utility work. A lot of the times, people just see the road torn up and don't see anybody working out there, or they see, well, they're only working on this little spot over here. The utility work is not very quick sometimes.
Sure.
They have to lay one pipe at a time, and some of these utilities are fairly deep, anywhere between 15 to 18 feet in some of these areas. Others are shallower. Our water lines typically run about four to
Hmm.
5 feet, depending on what obstructions we have. And our sanitary sewer line ranges in that depth. One of the things that we're doing here, this road, Old Highway 77, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, had roadside ditches. So it's completely new infrastructure for storm drain because it's never had any. All the water flowed through the ditches. So you'll no longer have that rural feel. It'll be urbanized, 3 lanes with 2 walking trails on each side. One of them will be 5 feet, the other one will be 10 foot to accommodate bicycles as well. And it's going to be a very nice road, roughly a little bit over a mile length. We're completing this project from the FM 802 to Morrison Road. And like I said, the anticipated time for this project was about 18 months. And so far, everything's been going according to plan and on schedule. We hope that that continues.
Yeah, that's good. And I know that there's a lot of viewers. We've received the emails, we received the phone calls, and they go, "You guys need to push that construction all the way into the McDonald's in front of the academy because there's a big pothole." And you and I have been in communication, uh, and sometimes the viewers don't understand the process of what it takes to. There's limitations that structure, that pothole by the McDonald's, we would wish we could get in there and help fix it, right? But that's private property, correct?
Correct. The city, when the academy and that development took place, they abandoned or dedicated Old Highway 77 to the developer. He compensated the city for that property. It is now private. We do have some signs out there just for, the reports. We get a lot of reports on that pothole, on several of the potholes in there. We've reached out to the property owner. We've spoken to, he's aware of it. We've sent him notarized mail where he's got, X number of days to repair it. We're looking to get that repaired as soon as possible within the means that we have available within our code of ordinances at the city.
That people don't understand. There's legal consequences. There's all sorts of things, right? That we can't just go grab a crew and
Correct.
just go dump whatever the mill and overlay and
Anything to fix
fix
it.
the pothole, right? But I'm excited about the work that's being done. I mean, there's a lot of mill and overlay programs, refreshing roads and in high traffic areas as well. Part of this year's capital improvement plan. I mean, where can people find that list if they want to say, "Is my street going to get done?" Where can I find that list?
So before I answer your question real quick, let me just talk a little bit about Calvin as well. That's another
That's right.
roadway reconstruction project that we have. Calvin is it's a community development block grant funded project and some city funds. We're doing some drainage improvements to a ditch that was basically scouring or eating up some of our road. And we're doing some drainage improvements for this neighborhood and repairing the road. That project is roughly about $2 million expected to
Hmm.
complete to start at the end of this month, and estimated completion for that is September of 2025. So it's a pretty short turnaround on that project. I need to confirm the date. 2025 sounds really quick. I think it may be a little bit closer to about 12 to 15 months. It may be
Okay.
26. Um, on Wild Rose is another project that we've been waiting for. Like many people wanted Old Highway 77 Country Club Road done. Wild Rose is one of those roads that we would get a lot of complaints on. That project's roughly about right under 3 million, and is scheduled to begin as well at the end of the month. We're waiting for the utility contract to be approved. Once that gets approved, we'll be ready to start. As for our mill and overlay, we have our work plan posted online. On the city website, we have a link for our work plan, and then we have a separate link for our street maintenance plan. And both of those links show the list of streets that we have funded, and it shows streets that basically the next, I call it the next year's list. We call it
Hmm.
the unfunded section, but that way the general public knows, okay, well, my street is on the list, right? We always get that question, is my street on the list? We try to stay a year ahead on selecting streets. Obviously, there's a lot that can happen to a road in a year. That's why in the past we used to have that list. Basically, it was a laundry list of
Sure.
roads, and it was just not. It was not the right form of communication because it would mislead people. People thought the roads were going to get paved, but then the road saw more damage drainage, and it required more than a mill and overlay. And then that project just got pushed off the list to a full reconstruction list. So this way, it's manageable. We're transparent. We show people, look, this is what we're doing, and I can tell you we're roughly paving about anywhere between 10 to 15 miles a year right now. We're given about $3 to $4 million right
Hmm.
now for our mill and overlay program. Some of that mill and overlay program is completed externally by a third party. I'd say about 80% of it is completed
Is done
in-house by
in
our
house.
crews.
And so, again, for the viewers, they can go to our city website. You can find a list of streets that are going to be redone, and those that are we're looking towards the future, right?
Correct.
Everybody wants to know about Old Dallas. What can you tell us about Old Dallas?
Old Alice, it's on our CIP, right? So the streets that are on our CIP scheduled, we have 14th Street, which was programmed to begin this year. However, with the construction of International, we've been holding off. We understand the constraints of construction, and putting those two roads that are basically parallel to each other within close proximity is just does not make sense. Even though 14th Street is in dire need, we're going to wait for the construction of International to be complete before we start with that. Then we have a coffee port is supposed to be scheduled to begin this following year based on our CIP. Then we have Old Alice after that. These are major reconstruction projects. Coffee Port is roughly about a $15 million project right now. Once again, these includes all the utility repairs,
Hmm.
urbanizing the road. It'll be a 4-lane road from FM 802 to Old Port Isabel Road. So that's a long stretch of road. Um, Old Alice is one of those roads that will likely end up moving up. The condition of Old Alice is quickly deteriorating. It is not scheduled till 2028, but we're seeing what we can do to get that programmed sooner.
Perfect. I
Um,
think I think again, Old Dallas people, keep your fingers crossed. I mean, we're really trying to do our best, looking at the CIP. But you're on the list. Old Dallas, we think about you. I drive it all the time. I get phone calls about it all the time. So we're gonna get to it. Dodo, I'm gonna move to drainage.
okay.
I know when we talk about streets, we talk about what we can see. Everybody wants to see the blacktop.
One
Um,
more point before we get off street.
sure.
Let me talk about the frontage on the expressway. The cleanup on the
Oh,
expressway
that's right.
was
You know
something
what
that,
about talk to me about that. I've noticed that we've stepped up our efforts. People always talk about pollution and how we don't cut the grass, and people sometimes don't realize that that's a text dot uh, uh, easement
right away.
right away,
Hmm.
correct? And I know that when we were up there in Austin, one of the biggest things the city wanted to do, you guys, we went up and advocated, hey, let us help with that process because they have a schedule on when they cut, and for us, it's we have the crews, we have the mowers, we want to beautify our city. That's right. I'm glad you brought that up before we get to drainage.
It was really challenging. We get a lot of complaints of mow the grass. The grass is really high. Our expressway, the most traveled road we have in this city, our frontage roads just looked really, really bad. So last year we spent a lot of time renegotiating our agreement with TxDOT. They've allowed us to complete more mowings. They've allowed us to complete the mowings our own or hire a third-party contractor. The city, as soon as we had that secured, we were so eager to get started where we saw the need for it that we used our crews. We had well over 100 employees working out there for a week. We had a lot of press, so I'm sure many people saw our teams out on the road. You know, we collected over 100,000 pounds of trash in those 5 days. I mean, it was
Gee,
unreal. It's not only just trash, there was a lot of debris, sediment, silt that's just left on the side of the road, the gravel. But our crews spent 5 days. When we started, we had a one crew of 10 people, and they quickly said, if you all want to finish this soon, we need help. We quickly escalated to 50 that afternoon. The following day, we had about 100 employees, and we ramped up gradually. I mean, pretty quick. At the end of the day, it was really impressive the amount of the impact that it had in the community, the calls that we received. We had a lot of calls from volunteer groups saying, "Hey, you should have told us. We could have helped." The expressway, we have high moving traffic. a lot of people, even we can put as much traffic control signage out there, they still don't respect, the signage that's out there. But at the end of the day, this project was a very successful story for us as a city. Not only for us in Brownsville, we've shared now our cleanup summary with the state, and the state is taking this as an example to share with other municipalities, not only what can be done, but to hold our contractors accountable to make sure that they're cleaning and mowing at least to their standards or what they're being compensated for. In some cases, we had inlets that well over a foot of debris on them. So our drainage was,
Yeah.
to
It
par.
takes, yeah,
Uh,
you grab all that trash and you throw it into the drains,
Everything.
right?
So our crew spent a lot of time, mowing one, cleaning up two, and then the drainage part, right, that we're
Yeah.
going to be getting into.
Yeah. No, congratulations to you guys. I mean, I really, I've received a lot of, usually we receive a lot of complaints. They're negative calls, but we got some very positive calls with that and with Price Road and with the work that you guys are doing, Doro. I want you to congratulate your team afterwards for the work that they're doing. It's being noticed, and those are the good calls that we get.
No, I appreciate
Uh,
that. I'll definitely let them know.
yeah, please. And so now let's talk about drainage. Obviously, they go hand in hand. I think that right now we're getting ready for hurricane season. So everyone, I mean, just what a month ago we had that massive rainfall that we saw cars just get flooded, underwater. I mean, the Mid Valley got hit hard. It was kind of a disaster, right? And when we start thinking about hurricanes, we start thinking about Brownsville. We were lucky; we got 5, 6 inches of rain. Some of the other got more than a foot and a half of rain. We got lucky, but how often are our systems inspected, and how does that process work for us as far as our drainage?
Tino, I'll start with the the magnitude of the rainfall, right? Because that March rain was devastating for some of our sister cities here in the valley. And dealing with anything above 5 inches of rain for any city here in the valley is a challenge. I can tell you here for us in Brownsville, 4 inches is kind of like our magic number. Anything below that, we're okay. We dodged a bullet, right? But the rain that just took place in the Upper Valley, I mean, you need a contract with God, and even then, you're not going to be spared. I mean, it's really unfortunate, right, that we live in an area that's prone to flooding. I always recommend to anybody, anytime I talk drainage, flood insurance, buy it. It's there for a reason.
Hmm.
We're in an area that's very low lying. Our drainage systems, yes, we don't have the rapid flash flooding that other cities in the hill country have, but we are prone to flooding. And I think this last rainfall was a great example.
Hmm.
One of the things that we do to set up, you know, the first rainfall we get, and look up at the screen because I'm sharing some of the pictures
Sure.
of basically after most rainfalls, this is what our inlets, a lot of them end up looking like. And a lot of it is the debris from grass clippings, palm fronds, that are just laid on the street. And you can see those are inlets that
Yeah.
our team members go out and end up cleaning out. But usually after the first rain, that's really, we hope that it's not a major one, because that's when a lot of our debris gets,
Mhm.
picked up. Like the rain we had in March was pretty severe. Prior to that, we had some good rainfalls that helped us do this preventive cleaning on the surface, right? But our inlets themselves, we have a crew. We have two crews that go around town, and basically all they do all day long is clean inlets out. They average anywhere between 3 to 5 or 6, depending on how clean they are. I do have some videos that I'll share with your team
Sure.
later. But on like some of the pipes that are under driveways, our team members will go in there and remove all the mud from them so that they flow clearly. In most of the neighborhoods that are prone for flooding, our teams will usually go out there and clean out the entire system. And we
So
have
do we
before.
do we
Go ahead.
just clean out? Do we clean out after it rains, or is there like a schedule where we inspect the drainage? Where we kind of take a look at that? Is there some sort of schedule? Is there a system? How often do we inspect these systems?
So we have roughly over 30,000 inlets or
Hmm.
manholes in our city, right? Uh, they get checked about, we try to hit them visually at least once in the year, right?
Sure.
Usually before we have our certain areas. A lot of the times when we get reported for flooding or reports for flooding on our helpline,
Hmm.
it's usually because the system is backed up. It's most of the time the flooding that we get reported is it stopped raining 1 or 2 hours after we get a call, and that's when we'll go and check. That's usually a lot of the times how we end up finding a problem, right?
Sure. With
Yes,
30,000, right?
yeah.
You're going to have to receive a phone call to take it.
Preventive.
Yeah.
We have, like I said, those two crews that in and day out are
Hmm.
cleaning inlets. We have a basically they go around town and they're circle their way around town, and they usually start in the areas that are where we get the most complaints, where we get the most issues and flooding. Those are the areas that are every year, twice a year, 3 times a year, they'll go visit. The more common one that I can think off the top of my head is Tradition Estates. That's one of our neighborhoods that unfortunately was developed really low. Our team is there after every rainfall. Anytime we have rain in the forecast, they'll go by just to make sure
Hmm.
everything's free. Town North was another subdivision that we would frequently visit and make sure that all their inlets are clean because those are areas that are prone to flooding, right?
We have a lot of growth happening right now in Brownsville, right? We have new developments. I mean, 24 plus subdivisions are being built. How do new developments affect drainage?
So the city of Brownsville, about 3 years ago, adopted a new drainage policy. We've always had a drainage policy,
Hmm.
but about 60 to 70% of Brownsville falls under the jurisdiction of Cameron County Drainage District Number One. Drainage District Number One has a very high drainage criteria. They have a 100-year flood policy that's in place, and the city always lagged behind. 3 years, we finally, like I said, about 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to step up our policy, and we have a very similar policy. Although our policy is a 50-year requirement, would be the release rate that we have. It's very equivalent to what the drainage district has. We're a little bit more stringent on how much water can get released back into our system. So basically, in plain old English, right? Any new subdivision that comes in is required to have a detention pond or an area where they hold their additional runoff that they're creating so that the system, downstream or upstream, is not impacted based on a drainage calculation. Okay. So the intent is that these developments, for an average rainfall that would happen every 50 to 100 years, they design their development based on that criteria to make sure that the system is not impacted.
Hmm.
Of course, you have a rain like, the recent 20 plus inches,
Sure.
it really doesn't matter what we do.
Yeah.
But for your average, 2, 3, 4, 5 inch rainfall, those systems work really well.
So for the last 20 years, 20 plus years, you've been working with the city. And for the last 20 plus years, the city's been trying to acquire a certain piece of property that's very important to the drainage, right, of Brownsville. And we just got finally good news, right? I'm going to let you break the good news to the viewers. You can look into that camera right there
Definitely.
because I think it's very important, especially, this is a big deal for the city, especially for District 2, right? I think this is going to be a massive benefit to the city, especially District 2. So go ahead and break the news on something that is long overdue, 2 decades in the works, and something that I think city manager's office, you, the team, definitely a feather in the hat of Brownsville because this is going to really up the game for drainage in Brownsville, I think.
Being in the engineering department 23 years and seeing drainage studies from 1987. 1987 study didn't reference this specific property, but the general area that the city needed to acquire land. In the 90s, they completed another study, same thing. It referenced the area for acquiring land. In 2012, we had a study that specifically identified this property as a property that city should consider purchasing and acquiring. We just completed our HUC study with Texas Water Development Board that covers basically the region. And this Four Corners area, or Boca Chica and
Hmm.
International area, was identified as the area that would benefit the most. And the way they rank it is by the number of structures that are impacted by a
Hmm.
drainage improvement. In this particular area, the property behind Walmart, on the plan here, you can see it's 44 acres that they've identified that the city should buy. We acquired 24 acres um, for the drainage improvement of what we call Robindale or Four Corners drainage area. And with the support of the city, we negotiated with the property owner and just closed on this property about a couple of weeks ago. So it's really exciting to see the direction that the city has taken. I can tell you, in the time that I've been here, for an acquisition of this size to take place is just it's unreal. And the benefit that it has not only to this area, a lot of people want to see how drainage is going to impact me personally, right? A lot of the projects that the city is undertaking in drainage are regional. They're not small projects that only impact one or two neighborhoods. I believe on this particular project, we're impacting 417 homes that'll be removed from the 100-year floodplain. And the 100-year floodplain basically is it's about, to give people a general idea, right? It's anywhere between 12 to 24 inches of elevation from the road that would typically flood. So if you would typically see, water at your doorstep, that water in that same rainfall would now be a substantial, distance further away, anywhere between 6 to 12 inches on average, I would say.
Hmm.
It's really hard to give exact measurements
Sure.
that our viewing audience wants to hear, right? But that gives you just a general idea of what's a project of this size will do. In addition to this project, we also have the actual Four Corners detention pond that's specific for just Four Corners. And a lot of people say, well, why would you do it just specific for that one area? Well, if we do a detention pond specifically for that intersection, the side benefit is that water that is being stored in that pond is not going into the ditch that your subdivision may be draining to, or that your neighbor's subdivision may be draining to. So it allows that ditch to flow without the impact of that additional water. So that's why drainage is it's very unique, right? It's not only going to impact one area. Even though you do an improvement in one place, it's going to help, in this particular case, about 60% of our city, because the majority of our city, I would say, from about Oliveira Park
Hmm.
uh, all the way to the east through that center of town, or what we call the North Main Drain area, Price Road, Old Port Isabel Road. When you get to um, this area behind Four Corners, all this area is impacted by these improvements.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a huge improvement. Um, Streets, drainage, anything we left out, anything that we didn't cover that you want to touch on before we leave the streets drainage portion.
On the just a couple of another projects that are, I think, important to mention is we're getting ready to begin a culvert crossing project. What are culvert crossings? Anywhere you see a resaca and we have a street going over, there's a pipe underneath that connects it.
Hmm.
We're going to be improving over 20 of these structures, and the intent is to improve and increase flow of our water. Obviously, we don't want to start upstream because then we'll impact somebody downstream. So it's very strategic how we do these projects to make sure that as we improve flow, we know that that water is not going to negatively impact somebody. So there's, like I said, roughly about 20 of these projects. In addition to that, with partnership of USGS, we have several monitoring stations that are being placed throughout town. You can already go to the USGS website, and we do have a link on our website, and you can track live data of how much rain is happening at this specific station, how the ditches, how much they've raised based on the amount of rainfall that we've had. To some of our viewers, this data may be fascinating. I can tell you, to us geeks as engineers, this data is phenomenal, because it helps us basically practice with actual data versus theoretical data that we normally work with.
Anything else?
That should be plenty to cover. We got a lot more. Uh,
So A rough ballpark. I've heard the number. Mill and overlay like this coming up year. Streets that we didn't talk about. We talked about Old Highway 77. We talked about Wild Rose. We talked about the Calvin Boulevard. We talked about obviously the International Boulevard. We touched on those, but we don't need to talk directly the names. But how many you would say? I've heard like 50. We're doing 50 mill and overlay streets somewhere around there.
So roughly per district, we'll do about 10
So about
to
10,
15 streets
10 to
per year.
15.
Yeah.
I'm saying so each district's going to get 10 to 15 streets improved. A total of 50 streets will be improved. Old Highway 77's being worked on. Calvin Boulevard's being reconstructed. Wild Rose Lane is being resurfaced and expanded. And we do have that mill and overlay program. So just this year alone, just to recap, we're talking about $17.2 million from the capital improvement plan to fix these streets and roads. You made it very clear that this is the transparent portion of a capital improvement plan. There's other pockets of monies within the budget that we do every year. This is just CIP, but if you add all of these together, in your opinion, 2023 years in the city of Brownsville, um, I asked the mayor the same question. Do you think that Brownsville is going to catch up to its growth?
It's a challenge, right? So our pavement condition index quantifies the number of miles we have in our city. We have roughly over 800 miles of road. To maintain a mile of road, depending on what level of maintenance, Old Highway
Mhm.
77, you include utilities, roughly about almost over 10 million a mile. Our mill and overlay projects in-house, roughly, you're looking at about anywhere between 150 to 400, 500,000, depending how extensive that roadway project is, right? But given 800 miles of roadway, the value of your asset is well over $1 billion.
Yeah.
The average road investment required, they say you want to put at least 10% of your asset. I mean, that's our whole budget.
Correct.
We could put our whole city budget just to roads and we probably wouldn't catch up. But we're doing what we can to stay at least ahead of what the national standard is, or what we call the pavement condition
Correct.
average. In the city, I can tell you from when we did our first study in it was 2013, more or less 12, and our more recent one that we did in 2019, completed in 2020. In that time, our pavement condition index remained the same, which was surprising, right? But our focus was huge on mill and overlay.
Hmm.
The price point, it's really that curve, right? That the cost of 1 mile of full reconstruction versus mill and overlay. We can mill and overlay well over 10 streets with the price it would take us to do full reconstruction on 1 mile. So trying to keep up with that is challenging, but we've seen that is, at least in our approach of targeting a neighborhood and improving a neighborhood, has definitely created a bigger impact than, just, oh, they went in my neighborhood and only paved one road. Why that road and not my road?
Sure.
So that's made a big impact with our community, that they at least feel like, hey, at least they came in here and fixed my whole neighborhood. And not only the streets, we'll go in there and take care of all the stop signs. We now have sidewalk money to address sidewalk gaps. It's the first time we've had money for specifically for sidewalk gaps. Alleys, we talk about alleys. That for many years, the only treatment we would do on alleys was with any leftover material or recycled material that we had to go
Hmm.
repair an alley. And the repairs were fair at best because of the material we had. Now we have a budget for alleys. We'll be laying out our list of alleys that we're looking to work on this year, hopefully by the beginning of next month. But once we finish our mill and overlay program, the intent is to focus on alleys and sidewalk gaps.
That's fantastic. So, just to final comments that I'll make to the viewers. You heard here that you could go if you have an issue with your street, with your road, you want to advocate for it. You have a pothole that you need. 546 help is the number. You want to look at the plan that is in place, streets that are going to be addressed in the next couple of years. You go to the website. In the website, Doro, again, they go and find what
Okay.
tab is it? The
Make it easier. I'll send you the link so we can include
So
it in your
we'll
podcast. Yeah.
include the link, and that way you can take a look at all of that and a lot of more fun stuff. But that's gonna do it for the show. I know that we're gonna have to bring you back on because we have to talk about the landfill permitting. There's just so many things happening at the city, but I did want to inform our viewers, our citizens, we are did working hard at improving our roads as best as we can. I ask those questions specifically because some people say, oh, there's still so much work to be done. In every city, there's work to be done. The growth of our city is phenomenal. We are doing, I believe, the best that we can to address the needs. I think citizens are seeing it. Now there's the pain points of growing pains. You're seeing the work being done. The crews are doing a phenomenal job. We're improving streets, we're improving drainage, we're starting to cut the grass, and
Grass.
we're trying to really beautify our city. And I think doing all of that without increasing taxes, right? That's right, without increasing taxes, right? I think is just kudos to you, the team, our city manager Helen, and everyone that works in those departments in your former Department of Public Works. I know that we have some amazing people there. I want to thank them. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope that we were able to give you some great information over our streets, drainage, the flooding situation, and everything that we're getting ready for. We're constantly keeping a very diligent look at making sure that Brownsville's safe, that our streets are safe. Doro, again, thank you for joining me. I am very happy once again that you got to be on the show. I'm happier that we keep you within the city. I hope that the city gets to keep you for a very long time. I think a Brownsville homegrown individual is needed, especially when it comes to the future infrastructure, which is we're in the boom. So we need someone that has that historical reference, that has the intellectual capacity to lead us into the future. And I think you're the right person to do that. So thank you again for being on the show. Is there anything, thank yous? You can stare at that camera.
Oh,
Anything you want to say? Any last comments you want to do before we sign off?
thank you, Commissioner, for having me on the show. To our viewing audience, please use 546 help to report any issues that you see. A lot of the times people, rely on, oh, somebody else will report it. Believe me, take the initiative, make the difference. We may not get to it tomorrow, but we'll definitely get to it as soon as we can. We do pothole reports. It's the highest complaint we have in the city, and we're doing our best to keep up. At least report it. Even the flooding, I always tell people, wait a couple of hours after it stops raining. You have water on your street, let us know. While it's raining, it's hard for us to do anything. But prior to that, 546 help, it's a good tool. Use it. You don't want to use 546 help, you can always use our website to submit your concerns. And we're here to help our citizens. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you. That's going to wrap it up for Brownsville at Large in this edition of Streets and Drainage with Doroteo Garcia from the city of Brownsville. Brownsville, we'll see you next time. Thank you.